All right. So what we're going to do in this one is work on our NS curve. The first thing we're going to be interested in is getting the interest rates as they were on the day that we started the bond portfolio. And in my case, that is 8/24/16. So I'm just first thing I'm going to do is come back to my previous on the yield data. I'm going to grab the last yield on my date that I was forming everything, come back to my new document, and then we're going to paste a transpose. So these represent kind of the numbers. What we need to be careful about is we got to line up. This is my new data, which is 3, 6, 2, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10, and 30. And I'm just going to go back and get my notes here of what the actual underlying data is. Control C to copy, and then come back again, and we want to paste a transpose. Alright, so we can see we got a bit of alignment problem. I want my 3, I want my 6. The 1 years I don't want, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. The 2 years part of my group, the 3 years part of the group, the 5 years part of the group, the 7 is not, so I'll go ahead and delete that. 10 years part of the group, the 20 is not, so I'll delete that. And now I need to get the 30-year data. So what I've done is just kind of like Treasury homepage. I mean, if you just do, I'm doing historic Treasury rates. I can just click on that guy for the sort. We'll come to the Department of the Treasury. So these are my historic rates once it loads. I'm going to go in my data and chart center. Alright, so here's my Treasury yield. I'm going to go ahead and customize the chart. Let that load, and then my date of interest is going to be August, and then I want 24th. I'll just click go. So here I am on the date, and my 30-year bond is at 2.24%. So back to my, and this becomes my 2.24, and that's 30. Okay, so now I just want to reorganize things a little bit so they're all in the same spacing. Grab these guys and move them over one. So these are in decimal, or these are in actual percentages. I need them to be in decimal. So these are the numbers that I'm interested in. Alright, so those are the starting rates that I'm going to be interested in. I'll go ahead and just grab my column header, I guess, row header. We'll paste that in there. As a starting point, I'm going to go ahead, Control C, Control V. These are going to be my starting evaluation points. And this is going to confirm that things are working the way they're supposed to. My basis point shift, I'm going to just enter a number like 23 basis points. And then the shift is simply going to be equal to the number of basis points. And we're going to divide that by 100, and then we're going to square it. So that gives me the percentages. I've already formatted it as a percentage. Alright, so we're moving along pretty good. We've done the NS curve guy a couple of times, but we'll just run through it one more time. We're going to start with our base numbers, so I'm going to go back here to my rates. Grab these values right here, Control C to copy, and then I'm going to go ahead and paste just the numbers. And when we write the macro, we'll just grab the associated numbers and dump them in here without a problem. The next thing I need is my decimal times. So I'm going to come over here to my price bar, grab my decimal times, Control C to copy, come back to my NS curve, I'll do a Control V to paste, and then again we got some cleanup to do to make sure everything balances out. 2, 3, 5, get rid of that one, get rid of that one. So now these guys come up. This is my 10, and now this is the 30. So our next step is to go ahead and apply our NS equation. Let me go ahead and first clear this guy. I'm going to empty the fill on that so things show up a little bit better. Let me zoom in a little bit more so it'll be a little bigger for everybody to see. Alright, so our NS equation, that's going to equal, and then we pick B1, F4 to lock it in, and then we're going to add to that the quantity of B2 plus B3. That's this one, F4 to lock it in, plus the next one down, F4 to lock it in. And then we'll multiply that by the quantity of B4, F4 to lock it in. And then we're going to divide that by our time unit. That's our 0.25. And then we're multiplying that one by the quantity of 1 minus EXP, and then minus our time. And we're dividing that guy by our B4, F4 to lock it in, parenthesis, parenthesis, and then we subtract from that our B3, F4 to lock it in. And when I say B3, I know it says A3 here, but I'm just thinking it's column B, row 3. And then we multiply that by the EXP of negative time divided by our B4 and F4 to lock that in. So quick check, all my B's have dollar signs in front of them, which is what I want. All my C's are going to float as I move down. And then we'll go ahead and just drag this guy down. Now our air, as we've done before, the air is just going to be the actual, which is B7 minus the forecast. So this is equal to our B7 minus our underlying forecast. We'll go ahead and drag that one down. Our sum air, this is sum SQ for sum square errors. We'll highlight the column. Alright, and now we're ready for our data. We come to our solver. We want to pick our target cell, which is E15. We want to minimize the error by changing just these guys. And we want to make sure that our variables are unconstrained, and we'll go ahead and solve. We got a little bit of movement here in terms of the numbers. That's not a problem. It's just because in the original one we had more data points, and so it's actually probably a little bit more accurate. So this is a functional value that we're interested in. We want our original ones applied though, so I'm going to hit a Control C, and we're just going to go ahead and paste that over here. All we need is the numbers, and then actually, you know what? That's not right. Let's do this is equal to. Let's go to our rates tab and just lock in our rates, and now we'll drag this guy down. There we go. Now there are equations that can be graded. And over here, we're just going to set that equal to our dates. We'll go ahead and drag that down. And then we're going to put our equation in again, our NS equation, except we're going to use our original values up here. And this is just going to become like the forecast that we're interested in, the basic values that we're going to run against. And we want to use, you know, this is our base. This is what we formed everything on, so we always want to be able to get back to that base position and know how it works. Now there's a couple of different ways we can do this. One way is to just grab here and do a Control C and now a Control V. we'll edit the equation. So all my B's become G's because I'm in G. Right? That's a G. That's a G. I just think it's a little bit easier doing it this way than typing everything in again. And then I got to go back to my time value, which is already set, H7, that's not a problem. So I'm just going to come back to my G's, hit the G again, and hit the G again. Alright, so this becomes the relative base equation that I'm interested in. So I can use this part. We'll just modify the percentages that are in here. Each one of these different rates we're going to be considered as a separate forecast. Right? If the past is any predictor of the future, then each one of these actually represents a forecast of the future. Yesterday, last week, last month, you can see there's a fair amount of adjustment going on. And I'm doing it this way rather than, because forecasting yield curves is a pretty complex process, which I think I've mentioned more times than I need to. Alright, so at this point I'm just going to go ahead and save the file. And then when we come back, we're going to work on a redemption price. Specifically, what we want to do is get rid of this Bondport master and just reference the NS curve, because now I have in this NS curve the appropriate parameters to do all the estimation that I'm interested in. Okay? So that's the basics, and we'll come back on the next video. Hope you're enjoying the class and the projects. Thanks a lot. Bye.